The integration of professional sports was a turning point in history because it helped to end overall segregation and brought more equality to the United States. While there are many athletes that helped to break the color line, baseball was one of the first sports to become integrated, and we believe these three athletes have had the most impact. Baseball is commonly known as America's sport, and it was so much so that it was segregated. Because of this segregation, the Negro Leagues were created. The Negro Leagues were great, vibrant leagues that allowed Negroes to play in baseball in their own leagues. Without these leagues, there would have been no opportunities for Negroes to play baseball. The Negro Leagues featured players like Jackie Robinson, arguably one of the best MLB players of all time, and Satchel Paige, arguably one of the greatest pitchers of all time. We will cover these players later in the documentary. The Negro Leagues were most active from 1920 up until the 1940s.
There are many positives and some negatives to the MLB's integration. The primary positives being how colored people were able to compete in Major League Baseball and how it rippled into segregation ending as a whole. But what was baseball like before desegregation? One answer to that is not as exciting as today in playing. In these fully white leagues, it was exciting and talented, but nowhere near what it is today. Now, there is much more variation and much more talent than ever before. There were many factors contributing to the integration, some being the talent in Negro leagues, a different and exciting style of play, or the large amount of fans between both races. One of the most prominent and known players that helped contribute to the integration is Jackie Robinson.
Jackie Robinson, the first of the three individuals we will highlight, had a major impact on the integration of professional sports, specifically baseball. Robinson was born on January 31st of 1919 in Cairo, Georgia. After Jackie was discharged from the military in 1944, Robinson first became well known as the shortstop for the Kansas City Monarchs, a Negro League team. He was tabbed as the player who would integrate white major leagues by the general manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers, Branch Rickey. He wanted Robinson not only for his style of play, but for his demeanor too.
Jackie Robinson was the first player to break the color barrier in baseball. He was the first black player to get an MVP in 1949, and he was declared as the Rookie of the Year in 1947. Jackie was the first black batting champ, too.
Jackie Robinson excelled at many other sports despite growing up with his mom and dad as sharecroppers and having grandparents who had worked as slaves. Even though they grew up in tough conditions, Jackie's brother Matthew Mackenzie Mac Robinson was molded into an Olympic silver medalist in track and field and attended Oregon College where he played. Part of Jackie's upbringing to becoming such an amazing athlete was being inspired by his brother.
Jackie was a four-sport athlete at UCLA, where he played football and wore number 28 for the Bruins. He played basketball and wore number 18. He did track and field, and more knowingly, baseball, where he struggled with a bad batting average, but kept his spot and ended up making it to the MLB later in his career.
He had a 10-year career in Major League Baseball playing on the Mets, Dodgers, and Giants teams. While he was on these teams, he would receive racial insults from fans of the teams. Jackie would get insulted and made fun of by umpires before pitching because of his skin color and would receive death threats from fans of the teams. Robinson would get rejected by teams because they wouldn't hire black players. He wouldn't be let in hotels with his teams because of segregation. This is one of the things that made Jackie Robinson so great, was being able to get through these tough times and still play to the best of his ability. After Jackie's retirement, he was still breaking down racial barriers. For example, he became the first black vice president of a major American corporation, the coffee shop chain Chock Full o' Nuts. Then once again, he became a first in the nation when he joined ABC TV Sports as their first black announcer in 1965.
Robinson died in 1972, but the next year the Jackie Robinson Foundation was created. It offers educational opportunities through full 4-year scholarships with mentoring, job placement, and leadership development opportunities to black college students who need financial help.
More than 3,000 talented young minority high school students apply to the Jackie Robinson Foundation each year. The foundation has raised over $100 million and has sent students to more than 200 colleges across the country, with students having a 98% graduation rate. The second integrator of note is Satchel Paige. Satchel Paige was known for his witticism, his extraordinary pitching talent, and his longevity. Satchel Paige played baseball for a whopping 40 years, his career spanning over 5 decades from 1926 to 1966. He's also known for his showmanship. In one of his games, he intentionally walked the bases loaded, then proceeded to tell his fielders to sit next to the mound while he struck out the next three batters. He is regarded as the greatest pitcher ever by many former MLB stars, including Joe DiMaggio, Ted Williams, Sizzy Dean, and Bob Feller.
Page was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1971, with a career full of outstanding achievements. One example of these accomplishments was a league record striking out 17 in a December game against Mayaguez. He ended the season with 205 strikeouts in 203 innings and had an ERA, or earned run average, of 1.93. Throughout his career, he also had 55 no-hitters, or a game where the opposing team doesn't get a hit all game. During his tryouts for the Cleveland Indians, he reportedly threw 4 of his 5 pitches directly over a cigarette. Page was also credited to be the first black pitcher in the World Series. He led the Indians to the World Series and won a title with the Braves earlier in his career.
Our third player we believe to have impacted on integration was Frank Robinson. Unrelated to Jackie Robinson, was known for shattering stereotypes of black baseball players. He was a great baseball player and civil rights activist. Over the course of his 21-year career, Robinson played on 5 teams: the Cincinnati Reds, Baltimore Orioles, Los Angeles Dodgers, California Angels, and Cleveland Indians.
Frank Robinson is the only baseball athlete who has won an MVP in the National League and won an MVP in the American League too. He had a big impact off the baseball field as well.
One of Robinson's greatest accomplishments and contributions to the sport was in 1975 when he became the first black manager after he was named player manager for the Cleveland Indians. Since he accomplished this, there have been 15 other black managers in the MLB.
At the beginning of Frank Robinson's professional career in 1953, he signed with a minor league team of the Cincinnati Reds. He ended up spending more time with this team than any other. 3 years after joining the Reds, he made his debut in Major League Baseball, then went on to have an amazing rookie year. Robinson won Rookie of the Year and tied the rookie record for most runs in a season with 38. One of his most significant teams was the Baltimore Orioles. While he played for the Orioles, he witnessed housing segregation and discrimination. This influenced him to join the NAACP, with whom he would give speeches about these racial issues to make people more aware of the discrimination that was happening.
Robinson accomplished many things on the baseball field, such as being fourth in career runs behind Hank Aaron, Babe Ruth, and Willie Mays when he retired in 1976. He had 14 All-Star selections, was inducted into the Hall of Fame with his team. He was awarded 3 American League pennants and won 3 World Series titles. Robinson has had a big impact on many baseball players and fans around the world with his many accomplishments as listed, and his motivation to work hard and do what's right. As shown and said, there are many positives to baseball's integration, but there is one big negative to integration. This negative was that the integration meant the end of the Negro Leagues. This integration drained the Negro League of its players and fans, and it had to shut down. Major sports franchises getting bigger, the Negro Leagues got smaller and eventually folded. Even prominent teams like the Kansas City Monarchs tried to stay in business, but eventually fell too. This caused lower talent who aren't able to compete in big leagues to not have a league in which to play and lose their jobs. Is this success and integration of these big leagues enough to be able to pass off how the Negro Leagues ended? The integration of baseball is an important turning point in history because of how it helped end overall segregation and racism as a whole. Martin Luther King said, "Jackie Robinson made my success possible, and without him, I would have never been able to do what I did."